In this lecture, we are going to begin styling the blocks for the post list. Similar to before, the process of styling blocks is straightforward. We need to compare our HTML with the block's HTML. Next, we need to identify what properties can be applied via block settings. Lastly, we can fill in the gaps with custom CSS classes. For reference, if you don't want to watch me apply these changes, check out the PDF. I provide a summary of all the changes I made to each block. Let's get started. We're going to start from the top and work our way down the list. The first block is the post author block. In the index.html file, the HTML for this can be found under an HTML comment that says author. For your convenience, I have a copy in isolation. The static copy of this template is straightforward. We have a single class called postAuthor, which will change various properties. The postAuthor block is very flexible. We can change most of the properties through the block's settings, such as the text color and margins. Let's modify the postAuthor block. Starting with the settings, let's enable the Show Avatar option. The postAuthor block can display the author's image, name, and bio. For our case, the image and name will suffice. Next, set the size to 24 by 24. The image does not need to be large. The smaller the size, the better. This is going to allow our pages to load faster. Afterward, set the text color to Udemy Gray 700. This is the same color that's applied by the postAuthor class. The last setting will be the dimensions. There should be space below the block. Set the bottom margin to 0.5 rem. As for the padding, we can set the padding to 0 on all sides. Unfortunately, the block does not have settings for rounding the image or aligning the image and text. Therefore, let's add the postAuthor class to fill in the gaps. The postAuthor block is finished. Let's modify the postTitle block. The template for this block can be found under a comment that says postTitle in the index.html file. The h2 tag has 4 classes for modifying the spacing and typography properties. Luckily, the postTitle block has settings for modifying the same properties. Therefore, we can omit the custom classes. For the block's settings, we're going to enable the Make Title a Link option. By default, the title is raw text. However, I think it would be a good idea to make the title clickable. The block will handle generating a link that points to the correct post. Afterward, we can modify the color of the text. Since the title will be a link, we're going to modify the link color to Udemy Gray 700. Next, let's modify the typography settings. The font size should be set to 1.25 rem. Luckily, our theme has the desired font size as an option. A custom value is not required. The appearance option should be set to bold. Lastly, let's toggle the line height option. The line height should be set to 1.75. The dimensions will need to be modified to add spacing below the title. If the margins options are not available, toggle its appearance. The bottom margin should be set to 0.5 rem. That should finalize our title. The last block in the column is the post date block. You can find this block under a comment that says date. Unlike the other sections of the template, there's not much that needs to be changed. There's a single class for modifying the color of the text. Under the block settings, we are going to modify 2 settings. First, we're going to enable the Link to Post option to convert the static text into a link. After doing so, we can change the color. Let's set the link color to Udemy Gray 500. We've completed the styles for the first column. So far, so good. Let's start working on the blocks in the second column. The first block is the post featured image block. The HTML for the image can be found under a comment that says post image. There aren't too many classes being applied to the element. Most of them will allow the image to be responsive. Luckily, the post featured image block will create a responsive image. Therefore, most of these classes can be omitted. Time to start configuring the block. First, we're going to enable the Link to Post option. Our images should redirect users to the post if clicked on. Next, we're going to set the dimensions by updating the width to 100%. The height will not have a value. We'll let the browser determine an appropriate height for the image. Next, let's apply margins. These settings may be hidden. You can toggle their appearance from the panel's drop-down menu. The image is sitting close to the tags and comment count. We should add margins below the image to add breathing room. Set the bottom margin option to 1 rem. Lastly, let's add two classes called RoundedLG and OverflowHidden. Our original design will apply rounded corners to a post's image. These classes will achieve the rounded corner effect. We're finished with the image. We're getting close to finishing the post template. Let's keep going. The next set of blocks is for the tags and comment count of a post. Unlike the other blocks, we are grouping these blocks with a row block. This block allows children blocks to be aligned side by side. In the static template, we're applying various classes to achieve the same effect. As a result, we can avoid most of the classes since the row block takes care of it. In addition, we may be able to get away with applying properties directly to the row. As we know, children elements may inherit CSS values from the parent wrapper. Since Gutenberg blocks output HTML, the same rules apply. Let's begin by adding spacing between the inner blocks. The tags block should be positioned to the left, while the comment count block should be positioned to the right. We can set the justification option to space between to configure their positions. Next, disable the wrap option to prevent the blocks from appearing on new lines. This shouldn't be a problem for most posts, but it's always good to think ahead. Afterward, we can begin modifying the colors. The text color should be set to Udemy Gray 500. Up next, let's configure the typography settings. The tags and comment count block support typography settings. However, both blocks will have the same font size. Rather than configuring the typography settings separately, we can apply them to the row block. The children blocks will inherit the font size. Set the font size to 0.875 rem. One more thing. The bottom padding should be set to 1 rem to add space between the row and excerpt. The changes we've applied are not perfect. There are two noticeable problems. Firstly, the links for the tags are not the same color as the color for the row. Secondly, the comment count block is missing an icon. Let's fix both issues. For the links, we can easily change the link color by modifying the post tag block. Under the post tag block settings, set the link color to Udemy Gray 500. The color we're using is the same color applied to the row block. Our tags and comment count should match. Nothing else needs to change. Let's move on to the second issue. In the resource section of this lecture, I provide a link to a font family called Bootstrap Icons. Our theme utilizes an icon set by Bootstrap. The icon set is not to be confused with the Bootstrap framework. It's possible to use the icon set without using the framework. Our theme does not rely on the Bootstrap framework, only on its icons. If you're not familiar with Bootstrap's icons, let's quickly talk about them. Bootstrap offers over 100 icons for free. We can easily load them into our theme with a single style sheet. Fortunately, we've already done so in the last section. We can immediately start using the icon. Using an icon is easy. It's as simple as clicking on the icon. On the right, the documentation will provide a code snippet for adding the icon. Each icon has a unique class applied to it. If we can apply these classes to our block, the icon should appear. Let's head back to the editor. Select the comment count block from the list. Under the advanced panel, add the following class, bi post comment counts. This class will add one of Bootstrap's icons to the block. Keep in mind, the theme I'm providing will apply additional styles to the icons. This may not work on your theme without a few modifications through CSS. If we look at the row, the design matches the static template. Awesome! We're almost finished. The last piece of the puzzle is the excerpt. There's not much to say about the post excerpt. The class applied to the paragraph will modify the font size. That's about it. Select the post excerpt block from the list. Next, we will update the typography settings by setting the font size to 0.875 rem. We're finished. That was a lot to go through, but hopefully things worked out for you. Let's save our template. After saving the template, refresh the page on the front end. Not everything will come out as expected. There are noticeable problems with the design. The second column has awkward spacing above the image. To understand why, let's check out the CSS properties for the second column. In the document, columns are created with div tags with a class called WP_BlockColumn. On the second div tag, the developer tools will highlight the problem on the page. The element has a margin. This margin is added by WordPress. We should override this behavior by adding our own margins. Now that we've identified the problem, let's try fixing the issues. Back in the editor, let's modify the columns block in the post template. The spacing is awkward. We can adjust the spacing by changing the columns padding and margin properties. Back in the settings, add the padding and margin options to the dimensions panel. The bottom padding and margin should be set to 2.5 rem. Let's address the second issue with the second column. As we've discussed before, the second column contains unwanted margins. Select the second column from the post template. Unfortunately, individual columns do not support margins. Therefore, we need to resort to classes. Luckily, our theme has a class for removing margins. Under the Advanced panel, add the !MT0 class. That should fix the awkward spacing with our columns. Time to save our template. Next, try refreshing the page on the front end. It took a while, but we finally finished the post template. The process should be drilled into you by now. Developing a theme is as simple as toying around with a block's settings until you get the design you're hoping for. Pat yourself on the back. You deserve a break. Once you're ready, let's finish the index template by working on the sidebar and footer of the template.